Hi, welcome to Free Money in the Market. Full disclosure before we start this episode, all views are our own, and we do not recommend that you take stock recommendations from us or anything that we say. Yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah.
Here right now because the stock market just
On the air
opened.
with breaking
It just
news
closed.
and
Within
turmoil
30
on
seconds.
Wall Street.
We've got this 1,200-point rally.
Welcome to the next episode of Free Money in the Market. We are still practicing social distancing, and today we are joined by our good friend Reese, who actually, Reese, you could just introduce yourself.
Yeah. So I'm Reese. I've known Connor pretty much my whole life. I'm actually his neighbor. Was his neighbor.
Was my neighbor.
Yeah. I work at a large U.S. bank in the Risk Forecasting division. So pretty much, sad to say, we really shine in moments like these. So this is where, I'm incredibly busy lately. But I'm in the credit card risk forecasting unit at a very large U.S. bank.
Nice. Yeah, hit me up last night. I was like, this is perfect, actually. Perfect timing to have you come on and just talk over everything, obviously.
Yeah. As far as markets or investing, I actually look back when I found out I was doing this. I look back what my first stock was that I ever purchased.
What was it?
And I had to dig because E-Trade doesn't.
Yeah.
It stops after 7 years back. So I had to look
Oh,
when
wow.
I
You
sold
started
that.
early. You started
and then
early.
look-
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember in like high school or something, I remember you having Citi, maybe?
City, yep.
Yeah.
Oh, that was good.
Was
I
that
do remember
it?
that.
Is
Yeah.
that
it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Connor.
I remember that shit.
Citi.
Elephant memory.
I was like, wow.
I bought it October 17th, 2011.
Oh my
Holy
God.
crap.
Yeah.
And then my second one was Micron. I bought it at like $7 a share.
Hey, that was my
Wow.
first stock, actually. Micron at 19.
Yeah.
Sold it at like 30. Should've
We
waited a bit.
didn't even touch on our first stocks in the previous
Never.
No,
episode.
I feel like this is a good time to do it. Mine was Micron.
Yeah, well, Micron.
Mine was Vanguard Natural Resources, and it went bankrupt. Lost all my money.
Can you tell the story of that? What did you do when the stock kept going down?
I kept buying more.
Averaged out.
All the way to zero.
Got
I was,
it
back,
on sale.
I was bag holding like crazy. I was like, oh, there's no way this is going to zero. I was like 17 though, and I didn't even when I first bought it, and then I bought more when I was like 18, and then it just
Jesus.
that was like 7. Yeah, it was like 7 years ago.
Yeah, I think so. I was I think I did it sophomore year. Maybe. I don't know. I think sophomore year, maybe junior.
I think my
Like for-
first ones were
like 4 years ago.
Caterpillar and Exxon Mobil. Those were my first two. That was when we were in college.
Yeah. Those are looking pretty rough right now.
Well, yeah. Well,
Then basically did nothing though, so I kind of just
Yeah.
sold them flat. So
Caterpillar, I mean, could be a decent play now that it's yielding like 4%. But
You think it would be able to sustain that?
yeah, I mean they have
Yeah.
a
They have a
balance
pretty
sheet.
big balance sheet, I guess. Yeah.
But the thing is, those Exxon and Chevron. I mean, other than Chevron, they're all gonna have to cut their dividends. We kind of touched on that, but
Yeah.
they can't sustain those payouts.
no way.
But yeah, remember back in college, I'd buy those like leveraged gold ETFs.
Me and Reese were talking about
Nugget.
that the other day. Actually.
Yeah.
I
Like
lost
like
J-Nug
six
and
plays.
JDST.
You'd sell it, it'd sell it
Yeah.
like 2 days later. The J
Yeah.
Nug and stuff. Yeah.
I bought
Well,
J-Nug a
we'll
few
talk
times.
I would play Nugget in college, but I vowed to never touch it after I lost pretty much all my money in that one ETF going into the 2016 presidential election.
Is that a 3 times?
Yeah.
I'm sure it probably went down, right? on everything. I don't know what your play on it was, but
Yeah, it tanked.
yeah. Yeah, so I don't really think much happened this week. The market was pretty quiet, which is good because
mean,
that means a lot less volatility. Obviously, one thing to mention is that the VIX, which we've talked about in previous episodes and we'll continue to talk about, what went below 50 finally for the first time in like, I don't know, a month and a half
at
probably.
least 3 weeks.
Yeah.
3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
I think it ended Friday at about 46, which is huge because that thing was way, way up there. Which just means that there's a lot of panic and a lot of selling.
Yeah, what did it hit at the top?
It's like
Like
85.
83 or something
Alright.
like that.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. So it's like almost cut in half from there. I
Yeah.
mean, 46, historically speaking, is still very high, but
It's
I think it's
incredibly
going to
high.
pick back up, though. That's what I've been thinking this whole time. You know, we cooled off for a little bit. There wasn't really anything new, but I think as this curve starts to steepen, and they were just saying in the press conference that they expect these next 2 weeks to be the worst 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, I think people are going to be a little bit panicked when they start seeing people they know maybe die from this.
I mean, I didn't get the chance to watch. Do you want to touch on a couple of things that I didn't get a chance to watch that press conference?
It really wasn't anything new, to be
Not
honest.
much.
It's kind of the same old, but he did make that point that these next 2 weeks are going to be really tough. And so I think that we were just taking a breather from the volatility, and that as we see, you know, the cases start to really pile up, it's going to reaccelerate.
So two things to mention is that today is April 4th, so that's the press conference for April 4th that
Yeah.
that President Trump
We're
held.
doing this on Saturday as opposed to normally Friday. So
Correct. And the other thing to mention is that I know that selling off is slowing down and everything, but couldn't you argue the point that we've already sold off too
I think we did
much?
initially.
Like,
What do you mean, to the point where all the new cases are priced in already?
exactly. Like
I mean, yeah.
we saw on this past Thursday and the Thursday before, like unprecedented unemployment numbers, and the market didn't give a shit, and it just went up.
No.
So
they expected it.
yeah. So at that point, like, is that the same thing with just the overall priced in? With the overall panic, is that priced in, you think?
I think this is going to go in phases. I think that we're going to have like an initial phase and then a second phase and maybe a third phase. I don't know. Reese, what do you think?
Yeah, I was just going to say that. I was going to say, I think that was just the initial panic sell.
Me too.
Hit the button, algos jumped in and sold everything, and then
everything.
Then we saw it come back, and it mellowed out a little bit. But I mean, there's more room on the downside, I think.
Yeah, I was looking at a chart of the S&P between now, this whole sell-off and everything, and then the 2008, 2009 financial crisis, and it was like,
it was
spot on.
Oh, is that the one you put on Instagram?
I put that on Instagram. I was like, holy crap.
That was pretty interesting.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah. Obviously,
like, this one was quicker at first.
Yeah, I was
now that we've bounced back, it's like almost still on the trend line of the 08, 09.
It's crazy. Yeah.
It is crazy.
So that was a W recovery too, right? We went down a little bit further after the initial sell-off.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
So I think this is going to be the same.
They call it a dead cat bounce, where like if you have a huge sell-off and then you see a nice rebound, people think it's like, oh, we put a bottom in, but then you end up you make a new bottom later on. Like that's exactly what happened in 08, 09, except that lasted 15 months. I don't know if this is going to last that long, to be honest.
I think it could easily. I think we're going to feel the effects in stages, like how the market's going to sell off. You know, people like the rent and stuff like that. Like, what are landlords going to do? What are tenants? Like that stuff's going to take time to trickle through. And so I don't think all the effects are felt up front. So we had our initial, you know, we went back up this week, and then we're going to retest that low, I think, and then kind of see where we stand from there, and how we react there is going to be a big tell.
Yeah. Reese, from like the credit side, the risk side, what do you think about that?
Well, I mean, so every bank has exposure to different lines of business. I mean, I guess the main ones are mortgage, auto, card. Card's a big one. credit risk, see a lot of banks start to initiate forbearance periods. So periods where, we stop credit card interest, or auto payments or things like that. And those could go on for, 3 to 6 months. So it'll almost delay the delinquencies, but you'll still see those pop up, in the fall once this forbearance period ends, and hopefully it gives people time to get their footings, rather than if we didn't do something like that, we'd see initial spike immediately in delinquencies. And then like Ben was talking about with the real estate, I mean, mortgages, we're seeing initial spikes in refis, but that'll eventually trickle down and be diminished by the fact that, people who lost their job now will have trouble paying mortgages now. So that'll be something that we see develop a little later, but from the start, it's basically hitting credit card right away. I mean, we see volumes on credit cards drop immediately. You see, I mean, the funny thing was, if you look at the daily charts of credit volumes, the supermarkets like shot through the roof, and they almost,
which makes sense. Yeah,
they kept the level above what it would have been if there was none of that. But I mean, airlines straight to zero. Restaurants were a little on the decline. Cruises actually went negative, meaning people were actually trying to get the money back,
getting the refunds.
They're getting refunds.
Jesus.
So you'll see a lot of airlines and all that
airlines
stuff.
will be the same. We're doing that. We had a trip to Portugal planned in June, late June. We're not going. I mean,
it's crazy. People are already canceling stuff that far out. It's crazy. It makes sense. But
it's more so because we just don't know where we're gonna be, honestly, at that point. Like, are we still gonna? They're saying April 30th right now, but April 30th, they could say May 31st.
They just have to give us a date so people don't freak out, and then
push it back.
So what's going to happen on April 30th when we're not out of our house? Another sell-off. That's why I think it's going to take phases. This is going to take a long time.
Yeah, I mean, the funny one was every time they would interview Pence, he would hold up the little flashcard that said 15 days to stop the spread.
Yep.
15 days again, they switched
you
to
whipped it right
30.
out.
30 days to stop.
That's why we're asking for 30 days. And he's like, I was like, oh, because I remember watching that. I was like, oh, okay.
What's next? 90 days?
It's gonna be a long time.
At least 90 days. Yeah.
We're gonna have trouble until June. I think it needs to get warmer. That's really that's the only way to slow this down. Because if people just go right back to work, then it's just gonna start spreading again. So. I really think we're caught between a rock and a hard place. And that's
but the thing is, do you want to wait for a vaccine that's not going to come until spring of 2021?
You don't wait for the vaccine.
Or do you want to start letting young, like, healthier people just go back to work?
I mean, they're going to have to come out with an antibody test to see if you're immune.
Yeah.
And then
pretty much,
hopefully they'll let those people go back. But, I mean, it's going to be weird going back to work. They're probably going to institute policies like, only half go back.
Because now we have like pretty much the whole country's workforce, aside from like restaurants and supermarkets and things like that, are working from home. Like,
and healthcare, obviously.
And healthcare.
The hospitals.
I forgot about that, but that was kind of an obvious. But like everyone that can and has the capabilities to is working from home. So it leads you to think, like, why in a year from now would I be in the office when I can do the same thing, be just as effective from home?
Yeah, I mean, that's something the banks are talking about right now, especially on the investment banking side. I mean, they're notorious for traveling, and they go from like Dallas to Sydney to all over the place. It's expensive, and now I think it's opening the door for before all this, if a investment banker didn't fly out to go see the startup and talk to them, in person is seen as like disrespect. But
Yeah.
now I think we're gonna see new companies, small companies that are looking for investments. They're fine doing it over Zoom meetings. It doesn't have to be in person.
Yeah.
I think we'll see more of that going forward.
So we could talk quickly about Zoom on that note and how, because of all of like the security concerns and everything, companies are actually trying to like stray away from it. I don't know if you guys saw that or anything, but
someone was
there's a lot of like
camera was getting hacked or something?
Yeah,
Zoom
so there's
bombing.
exactly.
People join meetings without being invited.
Yeah.
Type of thing?
You could essentially
Yeah.
put in any 9-number combination and potentially get into a Zoom meeting.
That's hilarious.
It's crazy.
Like
Yeah,
if you think
the
about it,
FBI came out with a statement saying like people were Zoom bombing. They were doing like putting up racial slurs and all that
Yeah.
stuff, and in like random meetings.
it
They
went
just have too
down
much
a
time
lot
on
this
their
week
hands.
actually, because of that. But
How funny would it be to crash at like a JP Morgan meeting?
how fun, yeah, like hop
just
into
get
like
in
a Goldman Sachs
Or,
meeting
yeah.
or
any like major company, just like go in there and they're like,
Hey, how you guys doing?
even just like a college course, just like hop in and be like, "What's up, nerds?" or something.
They wouldn't even care. They'd be like, "Oh,
No.
he goes here, right?"
Yeah, they wouldn't
Yeah,
know,
they
wouldn't know.
actually. That's true.
There's
Yeah,
a
they're
really
like, "Oh."
funny one. I don't know if you guys know Nelk. It's a YouTube channel. They have a video where they join college courses.
Oh,
And
I
they
gotta
come
watch
in
that.
and
Sounds
they
so-
come in and they immediately start talking to the professor like, "Hey, Steve, sorry I'm late." He's like smoking a cigarette, like drinking.
Love it. Yeah, so one big thing I think that came out of this week would be oil as well.
Yeah.
Had the single best day I think ever. It was up like
Best week. I think
Yeah.
best week. in
Best week,
history
probably,
for
yeah.
Crude oil. Yeah.
After
Yeah, they
having
did have the best day.
yeah, I
Both-
think it
yeah, I
ended
think
up
it
like
might have been both.
24% positive on Wednesday or whatever. I'm not too positive, but
Yeah, 25% on Thursday.
yeah.
That's one day gain.
And that came obviously after President Trump talked to Russia, I believe, and had them promise to.
Yeah, I think he said he talked to both of them, but then the Kremlin and Russia was like, "Nah, we never heard from him."
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
yeah.
Which is crazy, but
But
yeah, that was
yeah,
pretty.
The big one that came out in terms of that just recently was the virtual meeting that they were supposed to have between Saudis and Russia on Monday.
Mhm.
Got pushed back to Thursday. Apparently they're bickering over stuff. So I was just reading some stuff earlier, and they were saying that come Monday it's going to be a bloodbath in oil.
probably
Really.
gonna go right back down.
So
Yeah.
that's gonna bring the market down then, because the market's kind of
Probably,
been trading with oil.
Yeah, it has been. It's gonna be
We'll
interesting to see.
So nice. Let's buy some cheap stocks on Monday, right? Snatch up a
Keep
little
buying.
square if it's.
I've been buying.
I've been buying on the way
every
down,
day.
man.
I haven't bought in 2 weeks, 3
I
weeks.
still have a good amount of money to toss at it, but I've been just
Ben, I heard you talking about. I was watching the last one. I heard you talking about Boeing.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm a psycho. I think you can't fail because they won't let it.
No,
I'm
I
with
know. I bought Boeing at 98.
Oh, you
Nice.
bastard!
and
Tell me you sold it at
bottomed.
175.
You still have it?
Yeah, I still have it.
Okay.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I think you should.
I mean,
just add it to
if
that.
I could read the future, I mean, I would have sold at 180 and then bought
Right.
more.
Bought it again when it dropped
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, that's funny.
But there was there was a person that came out with a $3 million option play. This person bought like 5,000 contracts or something
Oh my God.
for 170 call expiration in September.
Oh my god!
So
Why-
that person,
September's are
big.
trading right now. What?
Yeah, you
Yeah, you can buy
You,
all
you
the-
can buy it, but
the-
who in their right mind is out looking out that far at this point?
I guess
I
they're
don't know.
probably assuming that this will all be
very
over.
bullish
Yeah.
person.
Small.
Yeah, I mean I get it, but $3 million.
I mean, obviously they got a lot more than that. If that's
Yeah.
what you're asking.
Yeah.
Unless they put their whole account in there.
Oh yeah, or they're just like
Some
trading on
idiot.
leverage. that's also a possibility too. They could just be like
True, very margin account. That's just
yeah.
gonna get a fat margin call come September. Oh
Who
man.
knows?
Yeah. So on the note of Boeing with like airlines, I always class the two, although Alex hates me for doing that, but I always class the two together because Boeing makes the planes that Southwest, Delta, Spirit, and the others
Does
fly.
anyone know the breakdown though of like the revenue from Boeing? Is it like 50% defense contracts, 50% commercial airline? Like, do we know how much they're getting from each? Does anybody?
That
No,
would
but
be
I would
something
assume I think commercial is much
Much
higher.
bigger?
I think
most
Yeah, I don't-
likely.
Yeah, I don't think their defense is that much, but
Yeah, I mean, because defense they're splitting with Airbus too. You gotta think. Um,
Are they? I didn't know that.
yeah, isn't Airbus as well?
I don't
Airbus
know.
isn't a
I
US
don't know if
company,
the
so I didn't
government
think that they
Airbus
would.
started
is a-
using. I don't know if the
Airbus,
U.S.
you
government
take
started using
them.
Airbus yet,
Huh.
did they?
I don't know. I always just assumed, honestly,
But they're
'cause
not
the
like
two
Lockheed
biggest,
Martin, where like 90% of their income
or
is
like
from
Raytheon.
government, from their like F-35s. You know.
Okay. Yeah, that's helpful to
Yeah.
know. So yeah, so the Boeing price, maybe it does have more room to fall, but it won't be, the company won't be going anywhere.
Yeah. So on that note, though, I was reading an article earlier that Warren Buffett finally made some moves and had Berkshire Hathaway pull out on a ton of their Southwest and Delta shares.
That's crazy. I can't believe
I'm
he did
surprised.
that.
I'm so surprised
I'm
that he did that.
shocked because that goes completely against his investment style.
He
Yeah, I was-
sold
I
at the
was-
sold low. Like,
Yeah.
what?
yeah, but the weird thing is he bought more like 3 weeks ago.
Yep.
And then
Oh,
he just
wow.
sold some. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. That's baffling because he tells us all to hold and hold and hold and
Yeah, he
never
sold
sell
any.
low.
I don't think he. I think 90% of the work is not done by him anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
But he has like those two. I don't want to say younger because they're definitely in like their 50s. But he has those two younger guys like running like the whole
Yeah.
investment portfolio now. I think. And him
It's
and
just like-
Munger just kind of sit around and talk to the press.
Well, I guess the thesis there would have to be that he doesn't think that the airlines are going to make a comeback the way that they once have been in this
Yeah.
country. So I guess that's a pretty bearish bet. I mean, I don't think I would take that same bet, but who am I to question?
For
Yeah.
years, he criticized the airlines for years. Buffett. I mean, yeah. And then out of nowhere, he invested in them. I think it was like a handful of years ago, and now he probably regrets ever doing that. So, who knows?
I mean,
Tough industry to make money.
it's pretty much directly correlated to travel, and if you can't travel, like right now, what are you gonna do? I mean, what was it? Flights in the U.S. went down from like 2 million. Don't quote me on that. Last year in March to about 175K.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, I saw
Yeah.
that too on CNBC.
Yeah, which is absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it was down like 90%.
Yeah.
Yeah, so no matter what kind of bailout money they get, you can't create demand. So, and I think it's going to take a year for the demand to get anywhere near what it
No,
used
yeah,
to be.
the bailout money is just so they can pay their bills while they're waiting.
I don't think it's
Exactly.
going to be enough.
One thing that I forgot to mention too from the press conference today was how Trump was saying that he's going to be requesting even more money for small business loans. Pretty much immediately.
Congress.
Yeah. Once the paycheck protection program kicks in, it's going to be like almost immediately that once the funds for it run out, which I believe was 350 billion initially. He's going to want more, but that's interesting.
I think there will be a second wave of stimulus for like the individuals too.
There
Like
has to be, dude.
the $1,200 check things that haven't actually happened yet. I think there'll definitely be a second wave of that too.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I was telling Connor before the show started that like people in this video chat right now are lucky that most of us have like money in savings. Like the majority of this country doesn't have anything in the bank. You know, they live paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
Like how are these people going to get through the next 6 months? That's why I'm actually very bearish on this whole situation. I do think that we'll obviously get out of it and you know things will return to normal, but I do think that like these next like 6 to 9 months in like the stock market are going to be very ugly, I think.
Yeah, because once once they get to that point, like even if they are living paycheck to paycheck, and even if they have money that they can put aside at some point in their lives, like if you just came up with $1,000 and you're like, oh, I'm gonna invest it, that sentiment's not gonna be there anymore.
Yeah, the market's a psychological place. And if people are feeling good, the market's going to go up. People are feeling hopeless and depressed, the market's going to go down. It's just people at the end of the day making these decisions. Well, when the algos
Except for
aren't
the
taking over.
robots. Yeah.
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 Well, people program the algos, so.
I would hope. Once they start programming themselves, we're fucked.
One day they'll be programmed.
You guys have any predictions for like the peak unemployment rate that we'll see? Have you guys read any interesting numbers or anything like that? Like
Yeah.
I think we could see like 20 to 30%.
Yeah,
I heard 20. I heard 20%. Yeah.
What's funny is in my world of risk forecasting, we do all of our economic scenario runs based on peak unemployment rates. And what's funny is before all this happened, all of our Connor's gone.
No, I cut out there again.
All of our scenarios, we have adverse scenarios and then we have severely adverse scenarios. And even our severely before all this happened.
Can you repeat that?
Yeah, repeat that, Reese. You cut out.
You cut out for 1 second.
Yeah. So we have all of our scenario runs, forecast economic scenario runs based on adverse scenario and then severely adverse scenario. The severely adverse scenario is 10%, which is if we have 2008 over again, we'll have 10%. So now we're seeing 15 to 30%. And
yeah,
I mean, every day we revise our forecasts, and it's
worse than 08. Worse than 08 is my base case right now.
Way worse, yeah.
Worse than 08, but for entirely different circumstance, like reasons, and that's why this is so unprecedented. Because like 08, there was a ton of banking issues that led up to the crash, to the eventual crash of the mortgage market, everything. But now it's just like everything, the fundamentals of every company, every bank, every U.S. citizen were there until a month ago.
Yeah.
Now it's like
it's so sudden.
Yeah, and I'm still under the impression that those fundamentals are still intact. It's just everyone going into panic mode.
How long do they stay intact for?
What's that?
I said, how long do they stay intact for? Because I think
that's a good question.
Is
unraveling
out.
Depends on what industry you're talking about too, because it's affecting them so differently in like restaurants and travel, and some of those industries are going to look completely different when we get out of this whole thing. Whether it's like through mass consolidation or just from overall just shrinkage of like their operation sizes. I mean,
yeah,
I've heard a lot of people talk about different industries where like just crazy buyouts and consolidation are going to start happening because the certain smaller companies can't stay afloat, and like the big guys will come in and just buy them out.
Yeah, all the small hotels, mom and pop hotels.
Yeah, like the bed and breakfast.
I mean, Marriott could just go around, Hilton could just go around and buy up like 100 small hotels.
Assuming they get money from the government.
For like a fifth of what they would have to buy it for like 3 months ago.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Getting some bargains out there. It's crazy.
The same thing goes for like most restaurants too. Like,
yeah.
You gotta think, owning like a like just owning one restaurant by yourself is gotta be miserable right now.
Especially if you never did takeout before and you have to learn the takeout process all of a sudden. And
I think it's pretty cool that a few of the restaurants around here, they're doing like the takeout process, which they've always done, and then they're doing on top of that, they're going and actually selling like booze. Like they'll get cans of beer and you can just take it out.
You can get takeout. There's a Mexican restaurant over here. You can get takeout margarita.
That's awesome.
That's
lit. Walk up and they give you one.
Yeah. Even like Carrabba's, the Italian place Carrabba's, they're selling their like the sangria kits, so you can like make their booze at home.
Yeah.
So, like they give you that like with your takeout order.
Yeah. There's another Mexican restaurant in Wakefield that's doing it too. But
along the lines of the buyouts and stuff like that, do you guys think that we'll see other companies like start to do like hostile takeover bids, like take advantage of the low stock prices? You know, like you get a company like Square at a crazy discount right now.
I was just gonna
say,
why wouldn't
like if I was Apple, dude, I would
buy. Apple buy them.
Just gonna say that.
I don't know
why
why.
are they not buying Square? Why? Why
Apple
not?
has like $100 and some billion in cash.
If they were
Still,
smart,
after all of
that's
this.
burning a hole in their pocket too. Like they literally have just been sitting on that for years.
Yeah, and they don't even need
Crazy.
it. What more innovation did they? Yeah, they're a tech company. They need cash.
That'd
What
be a
more
good one.
innovation
Yeah,
do they have?
smart.
Like, yeah, I'm with you on that. And
I would like to see some takeouts, some takeovers.
I mean,
I
yeah,
mean,
I wouldn't mind if Square
if
got bought out.
anything, if even people who are like billionaires, you could just go up and buy a couple $50 million businesses.
yeah,
Yeah.
For the cheap.
Yeah, for the cheap. Yeah.
For the cheap.
I mean, what's sad is I mean, we've been talking about, the wealth separation in the U.S. at least for a long time. I mean, it's only going to get worse after this is all done.
Definitely.
Said and
Way
done.
worse.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
the wealthy people who can sit back right now, and then at the bottom, they're just going to buy up everything.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, that's a good point. 1%ers, man.
Well, you get
Especially if all this money printing leads to inflation. And,
It's gonna, dude.
and
It doesn't
They
have
have to
to.
print like $6 trillion.
well, eventually it may. It's not going to like take effect right away, but
No.
let's
I
say
was still-
somewhere
I
down
was-
the line, milk is like 3 times more than it was today. Like
Yeah.
if you're a millionaire, or even if you're just well off, that doesn't really matter. But for a lot of people, that's going to ruin them.
Well, wouldn't they raise interest rates then? I'm not an expert in this stuff, but would they try to raise interest rates to try to curb inflation?
up with the inflation?
Is that the relationship? Is that right?
yeah, I mean, that's
Yeah.
one way to curb it. But if you raise interest rates, you're going to fuck everyone else. I mean,
Yeah, because then
Exactly.
people can't
It
borrow money.
only helps the people that have high
Yeah.
savings account balances and things like that. Like if you have a big, like if you want to buy a house and they raise interest rates, all of a sudden you're not going to be able to afford the mortgage anymore. But
Yeah.
Right, but you can't have runaway inflation because then you can't afford regular items then.
yeah,
Right.
exactly. But you can if you have a bunch of money in your savings account that's yielding 12% now instead of 1. So
Like 0.1%.
that's like why the rich people that have the savings on the sideline would be fine either way at this point. It's kind of it's crazy.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see like 3 years from now where we're at, because in my opinion, there's no, like, to get all of this done and to keep everyone kind of financially on track and financially sustained, they need to print even more than what they're saying. I think they were initially saying like $2 trillion, but it's going to be like 6. Jay Powell is just going to be pressing that print button on every time of the day. I can't talk. My video keeps
And
cutting
your
out.
video cut out.
I don't know why. Always does that. There's no setting to keep it not from cutting out. But yeah, like, so it's going to. How can we not have some form of inflation from this? It doesn't make sense to me.
Is that possible? I don't think it would be.
I don't know.
did you see the meme? It's Trump running over to Jay Powell, tapping him to wake up to go print more money.
Essentially what's happening right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I mean, I just pulled up because I knew I saw this on TV. It's a percentage of GDP of all the stimulus packages in the major developed countries, and like Italy, who's been getting hit so hard, and like Spain, Italy's at 1.4% of their GDP. That's how much they actually spent on the stimulus so far.
Nothing.
We're already at 10%.
Jesus.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So
That's
pretty
crazy.
freaking crazy. Australia's second after us at 9.
What is, I should probably know this, but what is our GDP? Probably nominal. What is that? Do you know?
It change. I
Doesn't
mean,
have it up there.
Rough estimate.
Multiply that
like
number by
mid-teens.
yeah,
I can look it up right
I thought it
now.
was like 16 trillion, but I don't know if that's.
Yeah,
which
something
makes
like that.
sense. I mean, if you put a $2 trillion stimulus package out, that's putting our GDP at
2019 was 21 trillion. 21.
yeah, that makes sense then. Okay, that's crazy.
Right, 21,220 billions. Is that 21 trillion?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I use Excel.
I don't know.
There's a reason why I have Microsoft Excel.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's right.
Yeah, that's
But it is crazy to think we're going to have another round of it, and we're already number one in the world amongst the G20 countries in terms of the package's value versus GDP. That's crazy.
yeah. So I mean, if you put
where was all this money for like infrastructure or anything else that we could have done with all this?
They can't just wait.
They couldn't get anything
it takes a
passed.
pandemic to
Yeah,
get some
seriously.
money.
And
Yeah,
even
no,
that,
no
like
one can agree with each other.
it took 3 weeks to get this bill passed, and it's still getting back.
Which is still surprisingly a lot faster than the government has
They
moved.
usually can't get anything
2008
done that quick.
Yeah.
It took 2008. I think it took like almost a year to get something going.
That is so bad.
It really is, honestly.
They could have stopped some of the bankruptcies if they just acted faster.
Bipartisan is cool.
What is the impact on the national debt? Like, does anybody have any idea of when that would number that those trillions that we owe is going to be a problem? Like, is there any smart person that can point and say like, hey, like once you get up to like 30 trillion, like that's going to fall apart? Like, do we have anybody that knows? It kind of just seems like we're just printing and we have no idea what the negative outcome will be. And that's crazy to me that we don't even know what the risk is.
If they're just printing, that shouldn't affect the national debt, should it?
Yeah, no, it does. Yeah.
Doesn't it? Aren't we borrowing that money because we don't even have it? Right? Isn't that
No, they're just printing it. Aren't they just like literally
just printing it?
Yeah, so it shouldn't be affecting the national debt.
So they're not borrowing it, they're just printing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
our money
who's gonna hold the US accountable though, like for their debt pile? Like
yeah, that's a whole different scenario though, I think, than this.
Well, not that they hold them accountable, couldn't they stop lending to us?
Yeah.
It's not like they say you have to pay it back now or we're invading you. They just go, no, we're not gonna take.
I mean, somebody owns our debt.
Right.
Yeah, but when they stop lending is when we say, okay, we're no longer.
Then we're gonna invade if they stop lending.
No, it's just we're not gonna back you with our military, and our military is the best in the world. So that's why we still get lenders.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there's a point where that runs out. But I'll be right back and get my.
Sure, there will be.
I mean, this is like debt to ourselves, pretty much. I mean, we're giving it to our own.
Yeah, we're lending it to ourselves just by.
So to think that there's going to be very little effect on inflation is kind of crazy because we're literally just printing money right now. We're not borrowing it. Borrowing it would be a whole different scenario because we're borrowing. Say we borrow $2 trillion from the EU. Well, that money is actually like pinned to something. It's pinned to the overall world dollar exchange or whatever. Whereas if we're just printing it, we're just making the US dollar be less valuable. So inflation.
It's crazy though. The dollar has actually been really strong throughout this whole thing because
I was gonna say that earlier.
People have been flocking to the dollar in other countries because of its strength. So it actually supports the dollar even though we're just printing money like crazy.
Yeah, it's that's another like whole different. How is the dollar index still sitting around 100 when all of this shit's going on? And even above 100 at sometimes too.
I think it has been recently.
Yeah. I don't know, but this is a pretty fucked up situation that the world's in.
Yeah, it's over 100 right now.
Over 100?
Yeah, just 100.68.
I mean, what's the lowest it's been from?
This year, it's up almost 5% year to date, which is like.
That doesn't make sense.
That's what I'm saying. Other countries, they're flocking to the dollar. It's crazy.
Yeah, they're just buying.
Yeah.
Hey, more power to them. Our money's not backed by anything. It's just backed by our military, like I said.
Faith of the U.S. government.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
By Trump.
Yeah.
Backed by Trump.
It'd be one thing if we were still on the gold standard, but we haven't been on that since Carter, I think. So I mean, there's nothing.
I don't even know if we have enough gold.
There's not.
It hasn't been backed by gold in decades.
Yeah. So. Stimpack 420. You guys excited for your $1,200?
Depending on if you are going to get 1,200. Yeah.
Well, isn't it if you're below 75K
for 2019?
for 2019 that you'll get.
Yeah, 75.
Yeah.
Then it phases out to
Phases out up to 100.
up to 100
Yeah.
for singles.
Yeah. So I'm curious to see if we get this round. What is the next round gonna look like, if there is one?
I think it'd have to
I
be
don't
bigger,
know.
right? It'd have to be bigger
Dude,
and more.
It'd probably be impossible to do this, but I mean, the smart way, I guess, would be everyone gets the first 1,200. Then they see who of that population actually lost their job.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they need it more than,
They're doing
me right now.
Not to cut you off, but they're doing like the $600 in
A week,
unemployment a week.
Yeah.
Which is huge. So on top of that 1,200, they're doing that for all of the people who are out of work.
Think about the people in New York City, though. Like, if you work for a restaurant in New York City and your rent is, I don't know, $2,500.
$3,000. Yeah.
My friend pays $3,000.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
That market's gonna go
the
boom.
percentage of their income that their rent is in New York City, like unless you're obviously on like Wall Street or you have a really good job, I mean, it's insane. It's insane.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine paying $3,000 a month for.
But like that brings you back to the point where like
It's crazy.
Landlords are just going to be the ones that get screwed over because tenants aren't going to pay throughout this whole thing.
Yeah, so how does that settle itself? Like, I don't understand. Like, someone's got to be left holding the bag at the end of all this.
The government, the government is going to
be the government for sure. I mean,
so it's just the government that holds it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, I mean, they're doing things where they're allowing people to push back. They're allowing them to skip like 2 or 3 payments.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then move those 2 or 3 payments to the end of the 30-year term or whatever.
Yeah.
I
imagine that's just on principle, though. Are they doing that for the interest of the loan too?
I have no idea.
Like for student loans, they're not even charging interest like for the time being. They haven't said when it's gonna that's gonna stop, but
well,
I don't know when that's gonna stop. But
they forewent student loans, didn't they? Right now, like they're just you don't have to pay.
No, they like you're supposed to pay, but if you don't, they won't care. Like you're not gonna get in trouble if you don't pay right now.
Yeah,
you're still supposed to.
I would hope not. I mean,
and no interest is accruing, so your principal can get knocked down faster if you just keep doing your payments.
Yeah,
which is clutch. Nice.
Yeah.
How long do we think it's going to take for property prices to like bottom from this whole thing? Because if everyone's going to not pay rent and stuff like that, aren't these properties going to go way down in value? Like maybe like there's a time in like 2 or 3 years where real estate's a bargain.
I've been thinking about that actually. That's why I've been like trying to keep some cash on the side for
save the monies.
Yeah,
for a house maybe. But right now it's just the interest rates are where you want them to be, but the house price, the housing prices are a little high.
Yeah, they haven't come down yet.
They will. Give it
I
a
think
few
that
months.
they probably will. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. People are going to have to keep selling. Yeah, no one's going to be able to make their payments.
Yeah, it's going to impact. It's going to impact different cities. I mean, New York City is going to feel the brunt of it.
Oh, yeah, they're fucked.
I mean,
they're already
those prices are going
to
come down a lot.
Get a New York condo on the cheap then.
Yeah, only $5 million.
Yeah,
right. for a 1-bedroom and a
save
closet.
yourself. Yeah.
Not even a kitchen. You just
a total value play right there in New York.
Just one master. Your master bedroom is also your family room, kitchen, and dining room.
Yeah,
it's my friend's place. Studio.
Yeah.
So do they have like a model where it's like every month the unemployment rate, we don't go back to work, the unemployment rate goes up by X%? Like, I don't know how these models work because I'm not on the inside of the industry, but like, suppose we do another 30 days after April.
Which I'm sure we will.
And those unemployment forecasts are going to have to get adjusted again. Right? I mean, every 30 months, I would assume is like, 5 or 10% on the unemployment rate, right? I mean.
Every month, you mean?
Yeah, of not working.
I don't know. It's only
being shut down.
Officially, you have to consider what the definition of unemployment is, because a lot of these people are being laid off, but they're not looking for a new job because they assume they still have a job to go back to once this is all over. So it's like,
I mean, that's
like different
the
levels.
It's kind of a unique situation.
Workers who are. I mean, we saw the initial unemployment claims, which is usually a leading indicator of what the unemployment rate's going to look like.
Yeah.
And that was the last one on Thursday was 6.6 million.
Which doubled from the week
Yeah, it's been
before.
10
Yeah,
million.
so now we're sitting at close to 10 million.
Yeah.
Right there. I mean, there's estimates from several banks saying next week is going to be around 7 to 8 million.
And if
And
you
it's
look
filing
at
just that week?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, those jobless claims are just for that week. Yeah.
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 So let's put that in their perspective.
And there's less than 200 million in the workforce, I think.
Yeah.
In the United
Yeah,
States.
it's like 165.
Yeah, 160. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so put that into perspective. 30% would put you at, I can't do quick math, I'm sorry.
Yeah, someone would do
like 30 million people.
48 million? 48 million, I think.
30%. Oh, yeah. Like 50 million people.
So 48 million out. That was pretty quick, right? Decent. Out of work for.
So yeah, a couple more weeks like that, like this that we just had, then we would have that number. We would have that unemployment rate.
Yeah.
But are they going to be counted in the unemployment rate? Because what if they're not actively searching for jobs? And
Yeah, they have to be to qualify for that. You have to be actively searching.
Yeah, you have to literally
for a
apply.
job.
Like they track your applications.
It's like a survey. It's like a survey almost.
Yeah, it's like within
Are
90
you looking
days.
for a job? And
Yeah.
But are they going to take that into account for a time like this? Is the next question, because who can look for a job right now? Like, there's no one looking for jobs because there's no jobs hiring.
A lot of people have a hiring freeze too. So.
Yeah. So is that going to be? Are they going to just say fuck it? Everyone that can't work is on this unemployment plan, or
pretty much, yeah. That's what they have to do for now.
Yeah.
Yes. A lot of restaurants are saying, "Why would I stay open?" And because like the Republicans criticize this part about the bill too. Why would I stay open and pay my employee $500 a week when they can go on unemployment and make $1,000 a week?
Yeah.
So like, not only am I saving my money by shutting down temporarily, but it's actually better off for my employees to go on unemployment right now because of that stimulus bill. So
like unemployment rates generally go for from $300 to $500 or $30 to $500 a week.
Yeah,
so,
the average check is less than $400 a week, but now it's like you just add 600 to that. Now the average check is $1,000 a week. So.
They're making more than
Oh my
not
God.
bad. It's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
If you put that on a yearly salary, it's like 65, 70K.
Yeah.
Is that going to be taxed though? Is that 600 that they're getting?
The extra 600? I don't think so.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to see if it's. I wouldn't think it would get taxed.
I don't think
is it 600 for everyone?
Yeah. Anyone on unemployment right now, an extra 600 per week.
On top of what the state already gives you.
Yeah.
They should use that extra money to buy dividend stocks that'll pay them for the rest of their life. That's big.
That's why we're doing this podcast.
Can you hear my dog barking?
Yeah, it's fine. Ellie, be quiet.
She's freaking out. I don't know why. She hates little kids. Like if little kids are like yelling outside or they're like riding their bikes, she like flips out at them.
Jeez, I feel like she'd be good with little kids.
Oh man.
You would think so, but I think they're too unpredictable for her.
They do keep you on your toes.
Yeah.
Just like little doges. So what about the small business loans? How do we think that these are gonna take place? Because in my opinion, it should be like there has to be some entity that's streamlining this outside of the SBA, because the SBA is too small.
They already started this whole thing. Yeah.
Did they?
You have to use you're supposed to just go through your personal banker.
Yep.
Like your banker.
Like let's say you have a banker down the street at Citizens Bank, you're supposed to, if you have that established relationship already, you're supposed to go through that.
I mean, the problem is they're getting inundated with all of these.
Yeah.
I mean, thousands of requests at a single bank.
Yeah.
And there's no way they can fill those.
I think I heard that they're prioritizing existing customers, obviously.
The big
and then
banks
like
are.
any new and then any new applications they're kind of getting to after they're already done with their existing small business relationships. But like there's a credit union down the street, literally down the street from where I am right now, and because my dad works over there, and he already got word that they're already out of money. Like they're whatever they got from the government,
we ran out.
Is already gone.
Wow.
Already gone. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Trump to send more money.
Yeah.
He said he would.
Seriously.
Yeah, he did. So I imagine banks like B of A are going to be coming out on top.
Oh
of
my
us.
God, they're mobbed right now.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, this is how would this be good for the banks though?
it's more. They're probably going to be taking on customers to
Or
start
they make money
because
out of fees?
Well, they could gain a bunch of new customers,
Right.
Yeah.
like, in the long run after this is all over. A lot of those people will stay, like,
Yeah.
You buying
continue
banks
using
here
that
at
established
0%
relationship.
interest rates? You buying banks here?
I
I
mean,
mean, banks are. I mean, look at Citigroup.
they're
Oh
not
my
going to
God.
fail. Citigroup has like what, a 6% yield right now?
Yeah.
Got cut in half.
Yeah,
Do they
literally
make
cut in
sense
half.
to look at for investments then? I just don't. I personally don't feel comfortable owning banks because I don't know what the monetary policy is going to look like because I think they
No,
ruined it.
I think.
Yeah.
I think banks are attractive, but not yet. I
Not
think
yet.
they're gonna bear a lot of the issues. I mean, going forward, I wouldn't look at them for another few months.
Yeah, because we
Agree
don't
with that.
know yet what the long-term effect is going to be, and I feel like exactly in a few months we're going to have some form of an idea of what that'll be, which will be nice. But
I mean, you really just want to focus on banks with huge balance sheets
Yeah, a lot
that
of
can
cash.
withstand all this stuff.
Yeah.
yeah, seriously. All right, boys. I think we should wrap this up. Honestly, I think we did well on this one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Good conversation. Thank you, Reese, for jumping in on this. We'll definitely have you come back.
Thanks,
Be
Reese.
awesome.
Yep. Thanks, Reese.
Thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
Free Money in the Market, episode 3.
In the book.
Cool. In the books. All right. Later, friends.
See you guys.
See ya.
Peace.